Somehow it is already almost March, and I genuinely don't know how we've gotten here. I'm a little bit puzzled where the first part of the year is gone. With that being said, I am really looking forward to March, and we're going to be putting together my March TBR today. My February reading has been a lot better than my January reading, so I'm hoping to kind of continue that momentum. And March is also particularly exciting because the Roll of Reads readathon is happening. This is a readathon hosted every year by a book fiend, Mel, and this is based on her TBR game, Roll of Reads, which is based loosely on Dungeons and Dragons, I think specifically the combat system. This is so much fun every year. It's such a fun game. Basically, you roll a d8 to find out how many rolls you need to do, and then there are a set of cards that you roll out in a, 5x4 grid, 5 across, 4 down grid, 20 cards, and you roll a d20, pull the prompt that goes with that number, and then pick books based on that. There's also punishments if you roll a 1, so if you have a critical failure, or if you roll the same number 3 times, and there's a reward if you roll a 20 and get a critical success. So that's the basic gist of the game. I participated the last several years, and it is so much fun every time. She does a fantastic job coming up with the prompts and setting up this readathon. There's also a Discord channel this year, so I'm going to link the announcement video down into the description so that if you're interested in joining this year, you can go check that out. She does a giveaway as well, so you can get entries for the giveaway if you make a TBR ahead of time, and if you track your books. There's a book submission form, so I'm going to be participating in that once again, and I am so excited for it. I think it's going to be so much fun again this year, so that is probably going to be the bulk of my TBR this month. It's going to be Roll of Reads. So I think first, before I talk about any of the other stuff that I'm going to be reading, because I do have a couple of school reads and an arc I want to get to, let's go ahead and do the rolls for Roll of Reads, see what I'm going to be reading for that, and then we'll get into that other stuff, because frankly that's less exciting. So let's go ahead and see what the dice gave me. Welcome to my desk. Please ignore the messiness and also the printing debacle that I had here. I ended up having to reprint on some scrap paper. But let's go ahead and roll the d8 and find out how many rolls I'm doing for the month. Got 7. That's going to be ambitious for me for school time, but we're going to do our best. So roll number 1 is 6. It'll be this one. Takes place on an island. Roll number 2, 5. LGBTQIA plus rep. Roll number 3, say 10. A favorite author. Roll 4, I think, is an 8. 5, 6, and 8. Okay. Gotta do math. This is an indie or self-published book. Roll number 5. So 3. Mentioned in the Gilmore Girls. That one's gonna be interesting to find something for. Roll number 6. That is an 8. Mental or physical health rep. Looks like I've jostled them a little bit there. And roll number 7 is 14. So that's going to be this one. Blind pick. So I am back with books, and 7 rolls is kind of a lot for me for March just because I know I'm going to be doing a lot of school stuff. So I have tried to prioritize books that are going to be shorter or books that I think are going to be pretty quick and easy to read just so that I can participate without overly stressing myself out on top of all of my school stuff. So the first prompt that I got was takes place on an island, and for this I've chosen The Decagon House Murders by Akito Ayatsuji. This follows a group of university students who travel to the rock-bound island of Tsunojima. I don't know why that was so hard to say. But they travel to this island that's notorious for a series of murders that's taken place there, and once they arrive, they start dying one by one. So it sounds super fun. I think it's a kind of a take on And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, or kind of a version of that, closed circle murder mystery. I love those, so I'm very excited to dive into this one. Next prompt is LGBTQIA plus rep, and for this I've chosen The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. This, I found some reviews mentioning it has sapphic representation, and I think it's going to be a really fun story as well. This is a serial killer mystery following these three women who band together to solve a series of murders. One of them is the sister of one of the victims, another one is a girl who has been cursed, and the third is a cursed writer, and she helps women to either get revenge on someone who's wronged them or else protect themselves from people who might harm them. So, sounds like it's just going to be a really fun time, and I've been seeing some good reviews for this lately, so I'm very excited to dive into this one as well. Next, I got a favorite author, and I've chosen Tread of Angels by Rebecca Roanhorse. I've read a few books from her and really loved all of them. I love her Sixth World series, which unfortunately is on hiatus at the moment. Unclear if there's ever going to be a third book, but I love the first two in that series. And I've also read about half of Black Sun and was really enjoying that, so I feel pretty comfortable saying that she's a favorite author, and I'm very excited for this one. We have a bit of a theme going here because this is also a murder mystery, but this one is set in a place where there's like fallen angels, I believe, and it's set in a kind of like mining town kind of setting, so it sounds super interesting and different from a lot of the other books I have here. Even though it is a murder mystery, I think it's going to be a very different vibe. And I'm so excited to try this one because I think everything I've read from her has been longer, so I'm interested to see what she can do in like a shorter page count. Then we got Indie or Self-Pubbed, and I've chosen The Hungry Earth by Nicholas Kaufman. This is a book I've been putting off. He's one of my favorite authors, and I've been putting it off only because there is killer fungus in this, and I'm a little concerned that it's going to put me on a bad anxiety spiral because I have contamination OCD, and I think this could be a tough one for me, but he is one of my favorite authors. I've really enjoyed everything I've read from him, and I really want to be able to read this because he was mentioning in a recent newsletter that this is the first of his series. It's the beginning of the Dr. Laura Powell series of like medical thrillers. This is the first of his series that's made it to book 3 because he also was writing the Trent trilogy, and that the last book never got picked up by the publisher. So I really want to be able to support this author because I really enjoy everything I've read from him, and I'd like to read later books in the series. I do actually think the second book sounds particularly good, and I think there's not like a description up for the third book yet, but I think that one's called The Mindworms. I think the second one is The Stone Serpent. So they all sound really interesting, and I just kind of want to like get over the fear with this one and just kind of dive in and see what it's like, because I know this is an author I trust. I've read so many things from him at this point, and I just need to like finally get it off my TBR, because this has been on several previous TBRs and I just haven't gotten to it because I've been too afraid to pick it up. Next up is Mentioned in the Gilmore Girls, and I had to go look at the article that Mel posted in the fact sheet because I have never watched the Gilmore Girls, and so I was like, I have no idea what would be mentioned in there. But there was luckily a long article with like 200 options, and so I pulled all the ones that I had on my shelf because I'm trying to prioritize my own books, and I ended up choosing to read Richard III by William Shakespeare. I chose this because it is short. It doesn't look short, but it's a play, so it is short. I have an audiobook for it as well, and that's like 3 hours long, 3.5 hours. So I know it's something I could sit down and read in an evening. It's also interesting to me because I've never read any of Shakespeare's histories. I've read several of his tragedies and a couple of his comedies, but I haven't read any of the histories. So I think this is going to be a really interesting reading experience. Next is Mental or Physical Health Rep, and for this I've chosen Iron Widow by Zaran J. Zhao. This one I've heard has, the main character has chronic pain from having her feet broken as a child, and she is I think an ambulatory wheelchair user, so I think that fits really well. I think there's also supposed to be some CPTSD rep in here as well, so I'm excited to read this one because I've been seeing lots of good reviews for it, and I'm interested to see how those elements kind of get worked into the story and how that affects the character and her choices, her motivations, all those good things. So I'm excited to read this. I know I've seen lots of good reviews lately, and I feel like it's a good time to be picking it up with the sequel supposed to come out later this year. I know it's gotten pushed back a couple of times, but I feel like it's a good time to kind of get to this one so I can read that one as well if I like it. Editing Hope here. I completely forgot that I'm going to be visiting family for about a week in March, and I decided I wanted to pick an ebook as a backup plan for one of these prompts, so that if I wanted to be able to like keep reading for the readathon during that week, I could do that, because I'm only planning to take my Kindle with me. So I decided to do that for this prompt, and I've chosen Winter Be My Shield by Joe Spurrier as my backup book. This is a book that my best friend just gave me for Christmas. It's a book that she's really enjoyed. It's the beginning of an adult epic fantasy trilogy, and I believe it has both mental and physical health rep in it. I believe there's a character who has been badly injured like just prior to the start of the book or shortly after the start of the book, and is having to adjust to that new reality and figure out how that is going to be like impacting them going forward. And then there's also, I think, PTSD and depression representation from what my friend has told me. So I think that's going to fit this prompt perfectly, and it's a book that she just has like raved about, so I'm very excited to be reading this. I really would be happy to read either of these books, but I did just want to have like a backup plan in place for the week that I'm going to be traveling. So anyway, that's it from me for now. Back to Past Hope for the rest of the prompts. Finally, we got blind pick, and for this one, I didn't want to try and blind pick off of these shelves because they're not entirely sturdy. They're a little bit wobbly just because the floor is slightly slanted over there. And so for this one, I had Jacob pick some books for me, and then I blind picked out of those. So I will insert a clip here right now, and you can see how that went.
Okay, I have been tasked with picking out 5 books to do a blind pick for Hope. So I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to dip through here and we're going to pick out a couple. Let's see. There's one. We're going to come over here. Let's see. She has so many, it's hard to choose. Let's see. There we go. You get the pile. We're going to come back over here now. Man, it really is hard for me to choose.
I left you with plenty of options.
Too many options. Let's see, let's come back over here. Okay, I think this one's a nice little, oh, if I got it, there we go. I think that's a nice little change in pace. And now we are actually going to come out to a hallway, kind of switch things up a little bit. There we go. Hi, Hope.
Hi, I'm walking so I don't see what you picked.
Okay, one more. I've got 2 from each shelf and 1 out in the hall. Which one's gonna get the special treatment? You know what? Just gonna pick that one right there. We're gonna shuffle up the order. Probably help if I actually film this. There we go. Okay, Hope. So for the viewers, we are going to have her pick a number 1 through 5. 1 signifying the top of the stack, 5 signifying the bottom. So, Hope, number 1 through 5, please.
I'm gonna go with number 4.
Number 4, okay. Good choice, good choice. Let's show it off to the crowd.
So he ended up picking for me, or rather I picked from his stack that he picked, The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I'm excited this got on the TBR. This is definitely longer. It's going to take me longer to read than several of the other things on this list. But I haven't read anything from N.K. Jemisin yet. I know that she's a beloved author, and I just really want to dive into her work because she has so many different series to read, and yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. I've chosen this one as my kind of starting place with N.K. Jemisin, primarily because the premise appeals to me the most. I know this is not people's favorite thing from her, but I love urban fantasy, and I think this is, like, of her premises, the most exciting to me personally. So I think this is going to be a fun experience, and I'm excited to try it. I did read a few chapters of this a while back because Jacob and I actually tried to buddy read this a while back, and just neither of us had the brain power for it at the time. We both ended up setting it aside for the time being, but I'm excited to come back to it and give it another shot. I think this could be a really great time, and I'm excited to finally try something from N.K. Jemisin because so many of her series are so beloved on BookTube, and I want to be able to kind of like dive in and hopefully enjoy those as well. So that's everything I'm planning to read for World of Reads, and since that's actually quite a lot, I'm not going to be adding much else to my TBR, but I do have a couple of things that I'm reading for school or for other deadlines that I want to briefly mention. So for one of my classes, I'm going to be reading 2 books, first of which is The History of Mary Prince by Mary Prince. This is a slave narrative that I have read previously, but I'm interested to see what this experience is like coming back to it because I previously read it in an undergraduate class, and I'm curious to see what the experience is like reading it now at a graduate level. This is for a class I'm taking on The Search for Happiness, and we're talking about like different shifts in the philosophies around happiness during the 18th century and some of the ways that undergirded early abolitionist and feminist movements. So I'm interested to go back to this with that kind of lens in mind. And then for the same class, we're also going to be reading Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This will be my 3rd time reading it and my 2nd time reading the 1818 text. I'm not going to say much else about this. I'm just very excited. I love this book, and I could talk about Frankenstein ad nauseum. I'm currently writing a thesis on it, so I'm just going to leave it there because I really could just go on forever. But I do have one other book to mention, which is an arc for To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods by Molly X. Chang, which comes out, I believe, April 9th. I know it's sometime in early April. I'll put the date up on the screen, but I want to go ahead and read this one in March. I've meant to read it in February. I just didn't get there. My reading has picked up a lot, but I just did not get to this one. But it sounds so good, and the cover is beautiful. And I know this is one of the books that was affected by the whole Kate Corain situation, and I think I really am going to love it, so I want to be able to go ahead and read it and get my review up, and hopefully help kind of counteract those false 1-star reviews that were put on this book for malicious reasons. And, you know, as far as I know, Goodreads hasn't removed those. So I want to go ahead and get my review up and kind of help support this author because I just think this book sounds fantastic. I'm so excited to read it, and it's going to be, I think, just like a wonderful read. So that's everything I'm hoping to read in March. I don't anticipate I will actually read all of it. I'm going to make an attempt. I'm going to try. I don't think I'm probably going to get to all of it, but I'm really excited about this selection. I think it's really interesting and varied, and I think I'm going to have a lot of fun reading in March, and my reading has been getting better, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that trend continues. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have for you today. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, I would consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.